Hey everybody, this is Valerie Lewis and I own Just Two Chicks Bakery, and tonight I'm going to read you a story, Flat Stanley and the Very Big Cookie. Stanley Lamb Chop lived with his mother, his father, and his little brother Arthur. Stanley was 4 feet tall, about 1 foot wide, and half an inch thick. He had been flat ever since a bulletin board fell on him. People in Stanley's town liked having a flat boy around, especially since Stanley was always willing to lend a hand, or even a whole arm. He helped the librarian reach books that slipped under the stacks. He helped the dentist smooth out all the new wallpaper in his office. And when the baker was busy, Stanley helped him frost cakes 2 at a time. But one day, Stanley and Arthur went to Pete's Sweets and found the baker wasn't busy at all. "What's wrong?" asked Stanley. "It's the baker in the next town," said Pete. "He's taken away all my business." "But how?" Stanley asked. "What does he have that you don't?" "2 words," Pete said. "Cake pops." "Oh, cake pops! Yummy," said Arthur. Stanley elbowed his brother. "What?" Arthur said. "They are." "It's true," said Pete glumly. "They are yummy." "So why don't you bake them too?" suggested Stanley. "I never copy another baker," said Pete. "I'm the one with the big ideas. The tart trend, I started that. The cupcake craze, me again." Then Pete held up a flyer. "This is my chance to get back my customers," said Pete. "I have to think of the next big idea by Saturday." He threw his hands up in the air and a cloud of flour flew up. "If I don't, my bakery is doomed." That night, Stanley and Arthur tried to think of an idea for Pete. Mini muffins, bite-sized brownies, everything had been done before. "How about a nice coconut macaroon?" suggested Mrs. Lamb Chop. The boys didn't know what a macaroon was, but it didn't sound like anything that could beat a cake pop. The next day was Friday, and Stanley and Arthur stopped by the bakery after school. It was a mess. There was frosting everywhere. The whole table was covered with cookie dough. Candy balls rolled around on the floor. "Mr. Pete," called Stanley. "What's going on? Whoa!" Stanley slipped on a candy ball, and his flat arms made a windmill, and he tried not to fall. But Pete came out of the kitchen just in time to see Stanley land, smack, face first in the cookie dough. Arthur peeled his brother off the dough. There was a Stanley-shaped dent in it. "I am so sorry, Pete," said Stanley, but Pete was staring at the dent and with a strange smile on his face. "The next big idea," he said. "It's big." Pete started racing around the bakery, and the boys didn't know exactly what his plan was, but they pitched in. Stanley and Arthur helped mix a giant batch of cookie dough, and they rolled it out on the table. Then Pete pulled up a chair. "Stanley, would you climb up here and fall on the dough again?" "Okay," said Stanley. "But does it have to be face first this time?" Pete grinned and shook his head. Stanley got up on the chair and he took a deep breath and fell backwards. "Perfect," said Pete. Arthur pulled away the extra dough, and Pete and Arthur pulled and pulled. Then they helped Stanley stand up. On the table lay a gingerbread boy. He was 4 feet tall and about 1 foot wide and 1/2 inch thick. "Just like you," Arthur told Stanley, "only good looking." The cookie looked even better when it was baked and decorated. "Wow," said Stanley. "This might sound weird, but I want to take a bite of my head." "Not now," said Pete. "We have 3 dozen kid-sized cookies to make." The next morning was the food fair, and the Lamb Chops walked down the main street. "Look at that," said Mr. Lamb Chop. There was a huge crowd outside Pete's Sweets. They were waiting to buy the kid-sized cookies. But there were 2 cookies that weren't for sale. "These are for you," said Pete. "Thanks for saving the day." "I always knew I had the sweetest boys in the world," said Mrs. Slamchop. The boys groaned and took a bite. The end. Good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.